What's going on, guys? My name is Joe Gallagher, and welcome back to Red Top Report. We have an awesome show for you today. Today we talk music, and we feature an interview with a solid Catholic artist. Of course, as always, please subscribe and like the video. If you're on Rumble, give it a rumble. Put your thoughts in the comments. We'll be right back. Welcome to another episode of Red Top Report, or RTR, as I like to call it. Tell your friends, it'll catch on. I'm your host, Joe. A while back, I had the pleasure to interview a man, an artist, musical artist, who goes by the name Enoch. We chose to wait on releasing the interview until Red Top Report was up. We had a few episodes under our belt. You know, we were able to grow the audience. And by the way, I think you'll notice that we have, of course, our own YouTube channel. We are separated from Church Militant to that extent because we're trying to grow a newer audience base, something a little bit younger. I want to talk to people that are my age and make sure that you're aware of what's going on. So please, if you haven't yet, please subscribe, check out more of our videos, message us on Instagram, send us a comment or a DM. We're around. Everything is at Red Top Report. Anyway, this episode highlights some of my favorite clips from my discussion with Enoch. If you want to watch the full interview, the link is in the description below this video and also can be found on churchmilitant.com. A brief point before we bring in some of the Enoch clips. Music is it's the great equalizer. There are so many studies showing the positive impacts of subjectively pleasing music on the brain, the music that you enjoy listening to. It stimulates the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine and serotonin. Respectively, these are the drugs that make us experience euphoria or happiness. Dopamine also, when released, helps with motor function. So there's things that can even be done with that through music. There's something called melodic intonation therapy, for example, where you actually practice after you have a stroke, you practice tapping your finger to a melody and it activates another part of the brain, which helps you simulate speech as if you weren't ever affected by a stroke. It's really amazing. Music it's so important. It's an influential part of us as humans. When we go to a concert and you have everybody all across the political spectrum focusing on one common shared value, and it creates one singular moment where we all forget all of the different things we disagree on and we embrace something that we mutually love. It's wonderful. Now, of course, that's wonderful in those times and places, but after the fact, we go back to our separate ways, and that's why things like Red Top Report, I believe, are so important, because we bring those people in not from just loving the music, but loving the truth. Music it's not only that, it's one of the first traditions or practices that people have embraced. Whether its purpose is ritualistic or recreational in nature, we all enjoy it. Everybody loves music. Even the angels use music. The problem, though, is that mainstream music is filth. It's garbage. The fundamentals, like the cadence, if you're listening to something like rap, R&B, the catchiness, melodies, that's all awesome. Those neutrals, they're great. That's why mainstream music is so popular, most especially hip-hop, rap, R&B. Now we're getting into a little bit more indie music too. But it's the content that's the issue. All that's spoken of is drugs, sex, alcohol, guns. That's real American right there. No, it's not. Grow up. And I don't necessarily fit the gangbanger look, I wouldn't say. Ronan, do I fit the gangbanger look?
No, not a chance.
No, you didn't have to say it like that, but yeah, no, I wouldn't say I necessarily fit the gangbanger look. But the drugs, the sex, the alcohol, I've been there, done that. And you crash and burn. And by the grace of God himself, you can bounce back. God alone. Of course, you have to be open to it. You have to exercise your will and your intellect and embrace the opportunities for conversion. But you will never get there without God being a part of it. And that's why this guest is so important. He is a Catholic rapper, and his music is pretty darn good. Check out a clip.
On the line, every time, spend every penny, give all our time to the sky. We're gonna climb. There's not a mountain too high. We do it for
What
you.
if a person had a soul or a room had a window? Would you leave it to gallopoles of the news at the invoke and scream at a girl, hear me roar with your insults? Would they really care or be swayed to where the wind blows? A slave to the passions, Engaged in the actions with a half a man who possesses the more equivalence of a trash bin, afraid of reactions. You panic around out of paid in its task. You know we did it for you. We march in the snow in the car, whether young or old, for you. For every non-profit charity we started, we'd empty the pockets. We did it for you. And all the pro-life soldiers took every assault at the world who chose us. We're turning with the same love that Christ showed us. You carry the hate of the world and you showed us.
It's good, yeah? His stances are rock solid too, theologically speaking. As I mentioned earlier, he gets the fact that secular music's fundamentals are solid, but the message, not so much.
What I wanted to do is I wanted to put a sound that sounded very secular. You know, catchy hooks, good cadence, professional production, you know, beats and instrumentals that you would hear on the radio with an authentic Catholic message to them, to kind of tickle the ear of folks and to say, listen, you know, Catholic rappers are out there and we could do it just as well as the secular folks. And, you know, we're taking this medium, everything belongs to God. So we're taking music, which belongs to God to begin with, and just giving him praise and glory through that medium.
He couldn't be more correct. One thing we also agreed on is that his message, specifically Enoch's message, may turn some people off because no matter how good the melody, the cadence, the beat, etc., however good that may be, the message is going to turn some people off because he's speaking the truth.
The gospel is offensive. It's always been offensive throughout the ages. It's always going to be offensive because, you know, the heart of it, it really calls man to repentance. You know, we had the vices and attachments that we're so attached to, and God's really trying to purge us out of that and, you know, break us away, you know, to separate us, to make us holy. And, you know, the only way that I knew how to do that, you know, I'm not an intellectual thinker as far as theology goes. I love theology. Don't get me wrong. I love diving into it, but, I'm not your Father Rippergers or Dr. Marshalls or Michael Voris's out there. You know, I knew how to make music, and I know the authentic Catholic message well enough for me to put it into lyrical form, and to have multiple syllable rhymes and a cadence that people say, hey, this is actually worth listening to because it sounds semi-professional. And for me, it was one of those things to where I personally think there's certain beauty. For example, if you look at the Narnia films, were done very well, or Lord of the Rings films, who are done very well. There's an allegory of Christian message there. Although sometimes it's a bit hidden, there's always that a subconscious that picks it up. But I think the beautiness of it kind of draws people there, where sometimes some of these Christian films are a little bit cheesy. The direct message is a little bit cheesy, where, you kind of listen to it, watch it and say, well, that was decent, but it didn't have that Hollywood production, I guess you would say, where like the Lord of the Rings did. And for me, I was just trying to put out an album that sounded professional, had it like what you would say a Kanye type beat, but an authentic Catholic message. And I'm trying to beat the secular world in their own game. I'm trying to make catchy music that gets stuck in your head, but with a Catholic message, so your subconscious picks it up and you start singing it without even knowing it, like they did to us.
If the lyrics are too awful, we'll just power through it. But if the message is too uplifting, we close our ears, we feel weird playing it in front of our friends. Why? Well, as Enoch mentions, part of it is because embracing evil is easier than forcing yourself to be ripped away from sin. With that said, you have to be selective of your messages you choose to deliver when you're in the music industry. Each song could be make or break. So what a content creator puts out is, of course, the message most important to them and the message they believe is most important for people to hear. Like, most important topic to you when making music that you want to touch on, if you had to give your top three, like these are the things that people need to hear the most, what would they be?
Sure. Number one is just life of Christ. That's why I made the song Be Like You. The other one is going to be the building and the cultivating of virtue, and especially in manhood, and just purging your vices and your sins and becoming the perfection and virtue, as you would say. That's why I made Under Construction. That's one of the tracks I had on there. And then, of course, you can't have a Catholic album without a Marian song on there. So I had to make sure I added her on there, Our Lady, and that's why I made I'm So Tired, which is pretty much the one of the lyrics on there, the hook is, "Mama, won't you please drive because I'm so tired," and it's really a call to consecration to Our Lady. It's like, take over, like please, So that was my version of Jesus Take the Wheel, the Catholic version.
It really was a great interview, and it's because he's a great guy. He's a great Catholic. And so the question comes into this: how do you fight back? And it's kind of easy. You stop listening to filth. Stop filling your head with this garbage. What do you think we should do? Blow up Universal Records? You can do that by simply not feeding the beast financially. Stop letting your streams go to royalty costs for people who literally hate you and what you stand for. So every time you stream a song, essentially what happens is a fraction of a cent. The streaming industry is getting better. They're starting to pay more per stream for an artist. That way, it can actually support aspiring artists that aren't the Drakes, the Kanyes, the Lil Waynes, the Eminems of the world to support themselves. But still, even if your stream is worth 1.2 cents per listen, if you take somebody like Lil Nas, for example, totally panders to the pride community, be gay, cross-dress, devil this, devil that, and it's everything that we stand against. If you listen to Lil Nas, that is just one more addition to the millions and millions of plays that he's getting. And when you have that for an entire album, that's how you bankroll these people to continue making more music like this. And also financing their continuation and continued embrace in the lifestyle. So Lil Nas, being a queer rapper, by listening to his music, you're giving him the financial means to remain obstinate in sodomy. And so what does this all mean? Well, you're probably not going to be able to bump to Wiz Khalifa or Lil Dicky with the windows down on a Friday night. You can't listen to Earth by Lil Dicky. And don't get me wrong, I actually really like that song. It goes hard. But you can't finance these people anymore. You can't do it. I can't do it. We got to stop giving them the money. But we could have Enoch playing. But the question is, are we okay with the Catholic faith? Because that's what Enoch's rapping about. Are we okay with the Catholic faith filling the streets on a weekend night? We're out on a Friday. We're with the boys. We're going to go hit a bar. Nothing wrong with it in a bar. But are you too afraid to let people know what we believe? And if we are too afraid to share what we believe, do we really believe it? And this is a really important point, because some people think this idea is acceptable to have your faith, your religion, to be part of your life. And that's just not possible. You cannot compartmentalize who you are based off of the audience. That's not integrity. That's not truth. That's not being an authentic Catholic or an authentic Christian if you're not Catholic and you're still listening to this, or a conservative. How can you listen to people that hate what you stand for? How can you do that? How do you rectify that in your brain? Well, it's easy, because we just ignore it. That's what we do anytime we commit an act of evil or an act of sin. We just ignore it. And it's easier to embrace other people doing evil than to call them on and call ourselves on, because that shows vulnerability. It shows that you might lose your friends. They might razz you, and you might not be as accepted as you were before. That's all right, because there's only one person, just hit my chin on the thing, there's only one person whom you need to worry about whether or not is accepting you. And he's up there. Again, the entire 22-minute interview is in the link below, and we'll catch you next time on Red Top Report. God bless.
Run into the box, run it, check it.